Oh, welcome into the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. Figure that out because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. It's a wonderful Friday, a fantastic Friday following a wonderful Wednesday. Although Sunday is looking to be a snowy Sunday, which we don't want to talk about. I don't want to live in the snowy world. The snow is mostly melted. I can actually see sunshine through my window for the first time in weeks. And now I'm being told it's going to snow. We shall see. I'll tell you what we are going to do today. We're going to do something a little bit different. It's been a while since we've done this. And it's not exactly a promise that I've made, but it's a promise that I intend to try to keep. And we'll see if I ultimately do or not. And sometimes I do keep these promises and sometimes I break them. This is what I do. I've kind of thought about having the occasional guest come on the show. And so today I've decided that I'm going to go way back in the Wayback Machine. And today's show is going to be done in conjunction, at least part of it, is going to be done in conjunction with somebody with whom I used to do many a show every Monday, Wednesday, and maybe Friday. And then there was like a Tuesday, Thursday, there was like a Monday, Thursday. A lot of versions of that show. Ladies and gentlemen, now joining me on the program, Kevin Kinkead.
What's going
King
on?
Blogger, the King Blogger over at Crossing Broad.
It's always been my dream to, hang on, let me get in frame here. It's always been my dream to be on the Russ Joy Show.
That's exactly right. As it should be for anybody in this space.
Yeah.
Hey, before we get started, I've been told that there's a writing opening. Is that true over at crossingbroad.com? Is that a thing?
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, we need to replace Pagan, who left us to link up with the maestro, Kyle Scott Laskowski, at Buying Sandlot. So we do have a rare job opening. This job never opens up, man. When's the last time we hired have we ever hired for it?
I don't think so.
I mean, but
Pagan, I think, was the only one.
Yeah. So
you were employee number one. I mean, if we go way back, it was Lefko and I were doing the show with Kyle. You were the first official hire, and then there was a slew of people that started writing, including Big Bet Bob, Sanfilippo, Tim Riley, Phil Kydell.
That's right.
Who else do we have? Coggin Toboggan.
Yeah.
It was an all-star cast.
We had a great group. We had Sean Cottrell. We had Jimmy McCormick. We had like a whole group of people. But now we're all now you're a bigwig in the company. I'm still with the site. Yeah, we have a content specialist job open. That's you can find it. I mean, we've posted about it on the site on social media. It's on LinkedIn. It's on the Sport Radar jobs page too. But it's really going to be writing heavy and some social media, but I mean, like mostly working on the blog, working on the site, and you just have to have good chops, know Philly sports, have a unique voice, understand the brand and the way that we write, and like understand the business model of what we do with legal sports betting and with prediction markets and whatnot. So you have to understand that world, but all are encouraged to apply, Russ.
The number of people that I have had reach out to me over on LinkedIn, because I had the audacity, I put the posting up on my LinkedIn. The number of people who have added me, sent me messages. There are people that like we work with from some of these sportsbook operators and such who are like, hey, my buddy is putting in, lifelong Philly sports fan, yada, yada, yada. Like if I pass along to you all the leads and the different people who have reached out, your prospect pool, which is already, I'm assuming, quite large, is going to be even bigger. So we shall see. It's a good opening. I mean, if we look at it, I didn't intend on going this way, but we will really quick. Like you look at the media landscape in Philadelphia, we saw Corey Seidman get hired by PHLY, which is a very smart hire for them. I would argue it's probably the best Phillies hire that All City has made in the Philadelphia market since they launched a few years ago. You've got him there. Jim Salisbury, who was writing for them at least part-time last year, has gone back to NBC Sports Philadelphia. Taryn Hatcher's now out at NBC Sports Philadelphia. Like, not a lot of jobs are actively open and available in this market. So it is a pretty rare opportunity. It's not like a tongue-in-cheek, oh, this never happens. But like realistically, there aren't that many jobs in Philly sports media.
Yeah, and even just beside that, on any given week or month or whatever, there's always people who are emailing or DMing or whatever, asking if we have internships or asking if we have any freelance budget or if there's anything that they can contribute to the site. And it's always we used to have an intern program. We don't have that anymore. My freelance budget's maxed out. It's like always like that's the worst part of the job, man. It's just having to say no to people all the time.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's nice that we can open it up and like have a rare, hire and find somebody to come in and contribute. Because it's tough sledding in the biz, man. Going to your alma mater, going back to your alma mater next week. Going to Westchester to talk to talk to the students down there. And I got to the college kids when I go do these kinds of things. Like, look, man, it's a tough biz. People are getting laid off all the time. But on the flip side, like anybody can do what we're doing right now, man. You get a StreamYard account and a microphone. If your shit's good, it's good. If it's not, it's not. There's no guardrails for the gatekeeping who can get into the business and who can't. The only thing that it's done is it's allowed everybody in, so it's a little saturated. But that's just what the landscape is, So yeah, I mean, if you're interested in the job, go ahead and apply.
There you go. So if you're out there and you've been waiting all this time, you've been waiting for the opportunity to go write for Crossing Broad. Now is your opportunity. I will say, let's actually exchange notes on this really quick. How did you end up getting hired in the first place? What was that process? That definitely was not LinkedIn.
No, I had just got shit canned by Eyewitness News that summer, I guess. And but I had like 3 other gigs that I was doing at the time. I was freelancing, and Kyle put a post up on the site saying that they were looking to hire. And I saw that and I was like, Crossing Broad could be cool. I think I could do that. But I didn't apply. I was like, I don't know. I don't know. It's funny to think about now, but back then, like the site had a reputation, and like, if you attach, people thought a certain way about Kyle. And I'm like, do I want to attach my reputation to that, or do I want to try to be a professional journalist and do the corporate shit, And that I think he's talked on podcasts about how many people he like wanted to try to get the job. Like he reached out to Kempsky and some other people, try to get them, and they didn't want to do it. So he DM'd me probably like a week or 2 after the job post went up. And he's like, hey, is this something you would be interested in doing? I was like, yeah, why not? What the hell? I did Crossing Broad. I used to sit there at Eyewitness News board, reading Crossing Broad, reading Radio Wars and all that stuff. So I'm like, yeah, this would be a cool opportunity. Here we are, man. It's almost 10 years later. Yeah.
It is funny, and it's funny because there was like almost a reluctancy there on your part, and in mine, like I just remember my buddy saying to me like, hey, they're looking for a podcast. I wasn't a Crossing Broad reader when I started working for the site. I think I would like occasionally check stuff out. And one of my buddies sent me a text and he was like, you've got to go put in for this. And I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And I just listened to a ton of podcasts at the time. And I actually meant to look and see if I could find the initial recordings that I submitted for that podcast, for the original Crossing broadcast. Cause like one was about Josh Harris as an owner and like Crystal Palace and all that. And the other one was just kind of like almost like a serial sort of setup of like Joel Embiid. Then I sent those off and started doing the podcast and then started freelance writing. And then one thing led to another. And then, you and I were working together and then the company got acquired and got acquired again. And like, there we are. So look at us.
It's a journey, dude, man. Yeah. It was just funny how, Kyle pissed off so many people that when he sold the website, which was really a great story, nobody wrote about it because they all hated him.
Well, I mean, he used to. Yeah. Well, so it's kind of funny though to think about it now because he wrote, I forget what the story was. It was about like 4 of the beat writers that were covering the Flyers at the time, about them like having their own little like time around the pool when they were on the road, and then like I think 1 or 2 of them missed a flight getting into probably like I think one of the Western Conference games or something, and they like hated him with a passion.
Core 4, yeah, who is that?
The Core 4, that was it.
Tim Panaccio, Sam Carchidi. Who were the other 2? Oh, what's his face from the Delco times, right?
Not Sam Filippo. Oh, Rob Parent.
Rob Parent, was he the one?
He might have been.
It was the 4th one.
I don't think it was Dave Isaac. I don't remember who the 4th one was, but they hated his guts. It was hilarious though. It was funny to think about. So you had that, and then
the fans are always going to be at odds with the Flyers beat writers anyway. I think that's just something in perpetuity,
Not that that's happening now. It's happening all the time and everywhere. So, Listen, media critique stuff still happens. You're still doing media critique. I still do media critique in our own unique ways. So it's always a lot of fun. But, I think we would probably be remiss if we didn't, kind of dive into a couple of the bigger stories that have happened in the last few days. I don't know where you landed on the Lane Johnson and Landon Dickerson stuff, but we've been talking on the show now for a few weeks about obviously Lane Johnson coming back is huge news. Shady McCoy put out and Schefter put out, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, that they had both heard that Lane Johnson was coming back. Then he apparently confirmed to ESPN a couple days ago that he was coming back. But Dickerson was the one that no one seemed to have a clear, definitive idea on what was happening. We saw Cam Jurgens went to Medellin, Colombia to go get the ozone blood transfusion treatment or whatever, and got stem cells put in his spine and all kinds of crazy stuff. But Dickerson is kind of the one that no one really knows, and he's only 26, and he fought through a ton of injuries. Seems like he's coming back. I think he confirmed to ESPN he's coming back, but just on an importance level, Lane Johnson going into year 14 is a what out of 10, and Landon Dickerson coming back at age 26 is a what out of 10 to you?
They're both a 15 out of 10.
Okay.
Are you kidding me? That's why all the stuff with Stoutland and the offense was such a big joke. I mean, people just glossed over the fact that Lane Johnson only played 10 games. Dickerson wasn't healthy for a single game this year. I mean, wasn't close to 100%. Jurgens wasn't close to 100%. Steen was starting his first full year, and Jordan Mailata would probably tell you that he wasn't as good as he was last year. They were first in the NFL for most of the year in stuffed runs that went nowhere or lost yardage, 0 yards or negative yards. Yeah. And I mean, every time I watched him play, it started and ended there. You say all you want about A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts and all the stuff. A team that ran the hell out of the ball the year before, 3/5 of the offensive line was completely banged up.
Yep.
No, I don't know. People got all this knee-jerk reactions they're in turmoil. They change the whole offensive staff. And I'm out there, I'm like, these guys don't look healthy, man.
No, they didn't at any point last year, which I thought was a nonstop kind of frustration. And it felt like for the in a lot of ways, a lot of people just kind of threw that off to the side. It's Jurgens never, I don't think Jurgens just all of a sudden became a shitty center, right? But when you look at it, especially late in the season, he was getting blown apart by the interior defensive line of virtually every team they ran into. And that to me wasn't indicative of the player. And then it also hurts that Dickerson next to him, we'd heard there was a neck issue, there was a back issue, there was a knee, right?
He had the knee thing going right into the regular season. Training camp, he showed up the next day, after the procedure with a case of beer or something. It was 3 weeks before the start of the season. I'm these dudes just don't look. That's why it just it's a cop-out thing. It's not the type of media that Russ Joy likes to do, but
that's right. I
put a fat asterisk on every single comment about the offensive line or about the offense because I'm these dudes are banged up, man. They ran more than 300 run blocking snaps for Saquon Barkley the year prior in a season that ended in mid-February. I don't even think that they recovered from the Super Bowl season at all, They
physically.
You're right. Separate injuries that were picked up after for sure, but those guys just did not. That's why I was willing to take the Mulligan year and, bring back Stoutland and give it another go at this core. In 26, I wasn't worried about any of that at all, but that doesn't play for sports talk radio and social media and whatever.
It is interesting though, because the Stoutland of it all, depending on which report you believe, there's that idea out there that around the mini bye, Sirianni and Patullo, I do always say conspired, but they certainly worked together on changing the run concept so much so that Stoutland apparently was I don't even want to be known as the run game coordinator. This isn't what I'm implementing. Do you think it was a panic move on Sirianni's part? I think it's pretty clear that it was, but was it a panic move and it also wasn't taking into account just how battered his offensive line was even coming into the season that they started trying to make the moves that they did and the changes to the scheme?
First off, I have a problem with Ford in the chat saying that I sound like Eeyore. I don't sound like Eeyore. This is my natural voice. My voice is just lower. I have a lower timbre. I'm a baritone when I talk. It's not because I sound like a donkey. So Ford should take that comment back. What was the question? I'm sorry. You're asking about Syria. Oh, it's we can sit here and say, well, the offensive line was banged up. They just got to get healthy. Kevin Patullo and Nick Sirianni, they may get fired at the end of the year. What are they going to do? Come out and say, well, we're just going to punt this year because the guys are injured. What is it, Daryl Morey and the Sixers? So
there's punting, and then there's actively making your team worse, which we'll get to in a little bit with Los Sixers to Philadelphia. But point taken.
I don't think that I don't know if it was ever reported specifically when the run game duties shifted from Stoutland to whomever else, but for what it's worth, Saquon was a lot better in the final 4 games of the year. Now, granted, one of those games was against Vegas, the other one was against Washington, and they both stink. But he had a good game against the Chargers, and he did have an explosive run in that game. But for people to say, like, well, explosive run is an outlier, and it kind of skews the stats. But Saquon had a ton of explosives the year before. I mean, if anything, that just shows me that he's getting back to normal if he's ripping off something for 40 or 50 yards. So he did look better towards the end of the season. I don't know how much that had to do with whatever they changed schematically or if the offensive line was just finally starting to put it back together. But he did have a couple 100-yard games at the end. I still think they're a running team. I still want to give it a shot before dismantling the thing entirely. I'm excited to see what Sean Mannion does, with bringing in some of those McVay and LaFleur concepts,
for sure.
You wanted offensive. I'm assuming you wanted offensive changes. I wanted offensive changes. We all wanted offensive changes. So we got them. We can't ask for that and then complain when they get rid of Stoutland,
The thing that I think is going to be interesting here, and this is actually something that I wanted to throw, we know that schematically they're going to be a very different team. This run offense is going to look vastly different. There are people who are paid to analyze and assess the X's and O's of football far beyond what I would ever try to fake being able to do. But the run concepts are very different. However, at the same time, right, you look at what happened last year and then you look at what was left over from the season before and what was gone. Juergens being hurt sucked. Dickerson being hurt sucked. Eventually, Lane Johnson gets hurt. Jordan Mailata, some people thought had a regression. I would just kind of look at you returned 4 of 5 starters from the season before. And I actually hated that they moved on from Mekhi Becton. I hated it. I really did. I hated moving on from Mekhi Becton because to me, if you can have him back at a pretty reasonable number, why would you not try to return the entire starting offensive line? And I'd also point out that it's not just a short-term play to have him play interior. If you were ever to get to a point where he's so comfortable with this line, eventually Lane Johnson's going to have to be done. Becton, size-wise, could work as a tackle. So there could have been a non-zero chance that you go take Becton from being a guard, and when Lane Johnson's ready to hang it up, you move him out to right tackle. You've got 2 gigantic human beings on as your tackles, and over the course of, 2 seasons or 3 seasons or whatever it is until Lane is ready to be done, then you try to find that next wave of interior linemen that can be ready to fill in. And I don't feel like the Eagles were ready last year to kind of fill that Becton-sized hole, which is a massive one. Now, the reason I bring all this up is because, as we saw, the Chargers are done with Mekhi Becton, which I think leads to a pretty interesting question, Kevin, which is if you're the Eagles, do you have a conversation? Because Mekhi Becton in Jeff Stoutland's system worked incredibly well. He was underwhelming in a lot of ways in New York. He had a bad year with the Chargers. There's no sugarcoating. It was not a good year for him. But based on familiarity, based on the fact that he's coming off a down year, you would have to assume that Becton isn't going to cost a ton of money. Do you actively look at the possibility of bringing back a Mekhi Becton, if for no other reason than he understands the team, the culture, the organization, and he can't possibly be as bad as he looked for the Chargers? Thoughts?
Absolutely. Without a doubt. I would bring him back tomorrow if he's cut. If nothing else, for backup. I mean, they I think Toth is out of contract. I think Matt Pryor is out of contract. Fred Johnson's just going to kind of have to be there as long as Lane Johnson is over the age of 35. But there's no downplaying how good Becton was during the Super Bowl year. I mean, we have the data. We have the Sport Radar data. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I remember narrowing it down and looking at when Saquon was running through A gap and B gap on the right side. And it was something like 6 point, I'm just guessing. It was something like 6.2 yards per carry when he was running to Becton's left or Becton's right, between the center or between the tackle. So Yeah, and selfishly, I'm interested to answer the question finally of like, are the Eagles really that good with offensive linemen, or does Becton just stink everywhere else? You know, I mean, he's only been good here.
That is true.
You know, so
he had a few flashes, I think, in New York, which is why they took a look at him. But he by far had his best season as a pro here.
Well, and you know, it's a funny thing too. Like, never forget that Stoutland came out last year and said that it was Nick Sirianni's idea to move him, move Becton inside the guard. Mm-hmm. You know, he was just opening up monster holes there. So yeah. I mean, I would absolutely. I mean, why not? You're familiar with the guy. The guy was really good here. Nobody's doubting that. I don't think Tyler Steen was bad this year. I think he was good in pass protection, but you know, he wasn't you know, like a refrigerator in the run game. You know, shout out to William Perry. But you know, yeah, of course I would bring him back.
KW1323 asks, will Becton be as good here without Stoutland? I think it's impossible to know until he's here. If he comes back, right? Like there's no way to know for sure.
It schemes a little. I mean, like, you know, when you talk about, like, not to get too deep into it, but when you talk about like stuff that comes off the McVay and LaFleur tree as far as like running, it's just there's more. You know, there's like pre-snap motion. There's stuff that's off tackle, moving parts, kind of. It's not just inside zone, outside zone, whatever. I mean, there's just a little more. There's just more going on. I think more mechanics, more movement, whatever. So they're all going to be playing a different system, and not just Becton. If he comes back, like the linemen that are here are going to have to learn something a little bit different. So
it's not the worst thing in the world. So we'll see. Like maybe there is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel for the Eagles in this line. We'll see. I also have to imagine that they're going to draft an offensive lineman high. You would assume so. This is why I think that the entire conversation, I mean, among the many reasons that the A.J. Brown conversation has been bullshit this entire time, is the idea of using a high pick to go draft A.J. Brown's replacement when you have so many other holes on this roster, including most notably in the trenches. I mean, probably makes the most sense to consider using a pick on an offensive lineman. You have to have that long game in mind, especially with Lane Johnson. Like, is it shocking to you Lane Johnson's played 14 years? I know he's played here for a long time, but 14 felt incredibly long.
That's why I'm bullish on the Eagles, man, because as long as Howie Roseman's there, I feel good about it, you know? I mean, did anything happen last year that is making us all of a sudden question Howie?
I think the only real question comes down to the decision to allow Patullo to finish out the season in that role. And it felt like, and I think that as things kind of fell apart, I mean, you have to know, as an executive, you have to have your pulse on the team enough to know where your biggest difference-making players' heads are at. And like very clearly last year, A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley, a few times even like Devontae Smith, who doesn't say anything truly negative. You had Jordan Mailata. These guys kind of hinted around the idea that they have to execute, but then you would also kind of get that feeling from them that like maybe the game plan itself, like they have to execute the game plan better, but like there was maybe a little bit of hesitancy around the game plan itself. I think they clearly erred in sticking with Patullo as long as they did. And if Sirianni's supposed to be this offensive mind, I'm not going to say offensive genius, but if he's supposed to be a good offensive mind, he should be able to call the plays. Like, as things were falling apart last year, to me, that's like where it's kind of put up or shut up time. But I think they clearly didn't think that was the way to go.
Well, and like, I mean, look at what happened in 2023 when that whole debacle with Sean Desai, you know, and Matt Patricia coming in, and that it just went from shit to shit, right? You know, so how, like,
the difference though is that
meddle with that, try that again on the offensive side of the ball. I think they were looking at that and just like, I don't, you know.
But the difference is that your coach is an offensive-minded coach, not a defensive-minded coach. Yeah. If this had been a stalwart defensive coordinator serving as head coach, and you had to move on from defensive coordinator, then fine, you could probably make that work. But when it's an offensive mind, I would have expected that they would have made a change. They didn't. Okay, I want to pick your brain here because there were some comments that came out after the Sixers got mollywopped in the fourth quarter last night that came out from Tyrese Maxey, and I found them a little bit concerning. And I'm about as big of a Tyrese Maxey guy as it gets. I'm as big of a Tyrese Maxey believer as I think it gets. But I have to be honest that like I was at least a little bit troubled by some of the comments. And I don't know if it's because I'm worried that he's not like the alpha A player. I don't think it's totally that. But after you lose a game to a Hawks team that entered under 500 and really isn't a particularly inspiring team, to lose the game like they did, where again, like they had a good third quarter and then they got outscored by 6 in the fourth when, you needed to have a strong fourth quarter. You didn't get it done. Maxey, I can't tell if he was throwing shade at Daryl Morey or if it was something else. So I actually want to go out to the comments and then get your reaction to it. But this was Tyrese Maxey after a loss to Atlanta on Thursday night. We'll kind of dissect this here in a second. All right, here's Tyrese.
Early in the season, you talked about having a standard no matter who was available, and you guys played really well when Joel was out early. Do you feel like maybe once you guys got used to having him because he was so available in January that it's been tougher to adjust without him?
It definitely is. It definitely is. We're playing multiple styles of basketball. That's why I said for myself, like a couple games ago, like it's weird. I don't had a successful year, but I played 3 different roles. You know what I mean? And that's difficult, but it comes with it sometimes, and that's not an excuse that you can use. You gotta go out there what we have out there and try to win games. Like we're in the game, we have chances to win. Had a hell of a third quarter, slow started the fourth quarter, and just couldn't recover.
What do you feel like you guys can tap into from what you did early in the season without Joel later in the year on nights when you don't have him?
We gotta make plays, man. We gotta make plays. Guys gotta make plays. Just gotta go out there and be aggressive. Don't be nervous or scared to make a play or make a mistake. Be aggressive, man. Go out there and just play.
So, Kevin, they did spend a good chunk of the first half of the season not having Embiid. They definitely fell into a couple of stretches where Embiid played considerable minutes, and it felt like they didn't totally make him the focal point of the offense, but he was certainly more involved in it than he was in the first half. And now that he's out again, they don't seem to be able to adjust. How much of it do you think really is just not being able to adjust to Embiid being out? How much of this is a depth issue after the moves that they made at the deadline?
I don't think it's so much of any of that as much as, teams are just trying harder now than they were at the beginning of the year when Tyrese was scoring 40 points a night and nobody was really playing defense. And, guys are just kind of casually working their way into the season. It's like the NHL, man. Flyers come out, they look pretty good, and then the cream starts to rise to the top, and the going gets tough, and things change once a calendar flips after New Year's, But I don't blame Tyrese for being frustrated. He sounds frustrated. Think about how annoying we find it when it's like on any given night, it's like we don't know who the fuck is going to be out there on the floor. So how do you think they feel? It's like, do we have Joel tonight? Do we have Paul George tonight? Okay, I guess we got to go try to win it short-handed, you just never know if 2 of their 3 max guys are ever going to be out there, which just kind of goes to what Ford has said on Crossing Broadcast for years. That just wasn't worth spending any time or putting any equity into this team, committing to this team because they were just unreliable. Guys are not out there, and you don't feel like you're getting anything back for your investment in the Sixers. So I don't blame Tyrese. Tyrese played more minutes than anybody. He's been carrying the load for these guys. He
earned himself an all-star starter spot, he showed out there too. But you lose Paul George to a suspension that should not have happened, right? Paul George has to know better. That was a bad move. That happens, and then they don't add at the deadline. They remove Jared McCain, so there goes one of your guys who could take some of those guard minutes and maybe take a little bit of the load off of Maxey.
Let me just ask you a question, or for the chat or anybody. Why should I have watched that game last night?
Last night?
What's the main if you were going to sell me okay, Embiid's out and Paul George is not playing, why would I watch the Sixers?
You wouldn't, unless it's just that you have a true love of the game. That's about it.
What VJ Edgecombe is doing, and you're just a hoop head. But there's nothing compelling for the casual fan who was into the team from 17 to 23 and bought in and got burned. There's nothing to pull that person back. And that's why feet are perpetually hanging off the bandwagon now, because it's just hard to be excited about a team that's on the backside of the vibes in that pyramid, So
yeah. The good thing that you maybe come away with last night is that Edgecombe was more aggressive, had more shots. It's the thing that I've been talking about a lot, that I think ultimately for this team to be worth the watch and certainly to reach whatever that next level is going to be or whatever their highest level is, Edgecombe's got to be more decisive, especially with Paul George out. Now, especially now that you don't know if Embiid's going to be playing game to game, like the waffling between, a 12-point performance, a 22, and then a 7 and a 6, and then you're back to 13. Like, he unfortunately is going to have to be even more consistent as a scorer until Embiid is at least back and ready to play at some kind of consistent level. But like, here's conspiracy theory, but like Chris Freed asks over on YouTube, is Embiid playing hurt because he's not happy with what the Sixers did at the deadline? I mean, remember, a week or so before the trade deadline hit, Embiid said publicly, I know we're usually trying to duck the tax, but we have a good team, and I'm like hoping that we're going to make moves here at the deadline. And Daryl Morey responded by trading away Jared McCain and Eric Gordon. Like, that, the Eric Gordon move doesn't really matter. It's more of a roster thing and a two-way contract thing, but like, moving away Jared McCain and then not being able to add or replace him effectively made the team worse. Like, I don't think anybody could argue that the team is better than it was before the deadline, right? Am I missing something?
No. I mean, I think the case with the Sixers and the Flyers is pretty similar. I think that you have people who are generally like willing to commit, and they want to commit, and they want to get behind the winner teams, but they just don't feel like it's got to be a two-way street. Like, you got to meet me there. I want to get into the Flyers. I want them to be good. I'm ready to commit to the Flyers. But what am I committing to? Mm-hmm. Like, they don't have a 1C. They don't have a 1D. They don't have a franchise goaltender. What am I committing to with the Sixers? I don't know if Embiid's going to be out there. Paul George, suspended, was a good defensive anchor for them when he was out there. Isn't going to light it up like he used to. But what am I like? What are you selling me? That's
you're selling the backcourt. Like, that is it. You're selling Maxey and VJ Edgecombe, which is still a more consistent and exciting prospect, I think, than like the past 2 years of trying to sell Maxey and a very clearly hurt and not going to play much Joel Embiid. Like, it's still a better prospect, but I think the thing that sucks is you got to see what this thing looks like when you have Edgecombe and Maxey hitting on all cylinders, Embiid coming back and playing like not fully MVP form, but like certainly at like 85% of that guy. Oh, and by the way, Paul George was like a competent human being on the court. And then it's just like all that's gone. Like the latitude pieces are gone. It sucks,
I don't want to be negative about I don't even think I am negative about the Sixers. I'm just like, I'm falling into that like apathetic kind of middle ground where even before the Joel injury last year and, what he's dealing with the last couple weeks and the Paul George suspension and all that. I mean, even 3 years ago, I'd say like half of the fan base, when I say fan base, I mean just like casuals, I'd say half of them were already at the point of like, wake me up when the playoffs begin. Because of all the second round exits, So that was already like a pre-existing condition, It's kind of where the Phillies are now, where you go up and the vibes are high and then they crest and they come down. These people are going to pay attention, but they don't feel the way they felt when Garrett Stubbs was playing Dancing on My Own and stuffing beers into his overalls,
Yeah.
So I think you got the
Don't worry though, Kevin, they're better this year. They're a better team this year, according to Rob Thompson.
Well, I mean, that's an entire podcast separately. But
team.
I'm not negative on the Sixers. Like, I'm hopeful for them, but I just don't see, like, coming out of the All-Star break, are we not supposed to be like excited, see what's going to happen here? It's the final sprint, But I was looking at that game last time, but there's nothing compelling about this, No,
not
a single.
No, and the thing that's really shitty about it too is like, so as of right now, right, they're 6th in the East, and you look at it and like, let's talk about how there's a lot of parity in the league, and there is. But, like, it felt like for a while you were within a game or 3 games, give or take, of, like, that number 2 spot in the conference. And the gap between the Sixers and the Celtics right now is 6 games. And, oh, by the way, it looks like Jason Tatum will be back. And he's not going to be the same Jason Tatum of old, but, like, he's certainly a very valuable piece to add to that mix. The Knicks were ready to light themselves on fire and potentially trade away Mikal Bridges and Karl Anthony Towns to try to get in on Giannis, and they've won 7 of their last 10. The Cavs add James Harden at the deadline, and it's not like anybody's afraid of James Harden in the playoffs, but they're 9-1 in their last 10. And it's like that gap between the better teams in the conference and where you're at, that gap continues to grow. And Embiid not being around makes it even worse. It's a compounding thing. It sucks. If Embiid were actually relatively healthy, right? And if the thing that we saw, that 12-game stretch or whatever, wasn't an aberration, but it was more of like the rule, well, this Sixers team should be a top 2, top 3 team in this conference. They should be. But with him out, and with so much variance, and with Paul George out 25 games, it's hard to envision a scenario right now where they're going to get into that top 3. I think it might actually at this point be hard for them to get in the top 4. They're 4.5 games right now behind the Knicks and the Cavs, who are 3rd and 4th respectively. But like, you don't have that many games left, right? Like, they've got 27 games left in the season. You could certainly make up some ground, but like, can you make up that much?
Can I make
remain consistent?
Can I make a weird comparison here? I just thought of this, and I'm going to try this take for the first time. Well, it's not really a take, but I don't know how many like big 5 people there are in here, but the Sixers and St. Joe's are on this like the same trajectory this year. Everybody's saying like, well, we didn't expect Embiid to be available for even this many games, and they're 30 and 25 now, and he's been out there and he looks good. And this is, things are relatively good, all things considered, right? And where has that gotten you on February 20th? You're the 6th seed in the East and just barely clinging on to that spot, or else you're a play-in team, St. Joe's, Steve Donahue comes in after the Billy Lang thing. They lose. Deuce Jones gets kicked off the team, I guess. They're 16 and 10. It's pretty good. Yeah. That's pretty good considering the circumstances, right? I mean, nobody expected them to be where they are. But what does that look like at the end? I mean, it's another double bye in the A10 tournament, and then they get their doors blown off probably in the semifinals. So the Sixers are probably above where we thought they were going to be at this point, but they're not in any better position than they were in 21 or 22 or 23. So I guess that's just a fancy way of saying that the bar has been lowered, I mean, like, we're clearing a relatively low bar here. It's like, it's better than we thought it was going to be. What we thought it was going to be was shit. Yeah. So there you have it. Is that a good comparison?
I think it's a decent one. Yeah.
No, thanks. Get some big 5.
I think it's a disappointing one though, especially given where the team was like 3 weeks ago. They really did look like they were on the come up, and Embiid tweaks. He had soreness in his right shin, I think it was, during the All-Star break when he was working on ramping back up. So I don't know what to make of any of it. I think the whole thing is disappointing. And again, like the McCain trade was just such a bad move in the moment, and not being able to have a corresponding move lined up is such a bad look for this organization. And it's a bad look for Daryl Morey, who's had plenty of experience in this league. You can't move on from a player like that and have nothing ready behind it.
Do you think it's better optically to come out and say that there was a corresponding move and we couldn't do it, versus just saying we traded him because we thought we were getting value back?
I think it actually would have. He kind of hinted at it though, right? But like the reason I think he's full of shit, among many reasons that I think he's full of shit, is that if the Sixers had moved Jared McCain 2 hours before the trade deadline, I'd have bought it. I'd have bought it hook, line, and sinker. We moved Jared McCain. We got these picks. We were actively in negotiations for a difference-making player. We could not get it done in the final 2 hours. It fell through. The other team backed out. All right, that sucks, but I can kind of believe it because of the timing. You traded Jared McCain like 28 hours before the trade deadline happened. There's no reason to make that move and not have another thing lined up ready to go.
Yeah, because
at least from where I'm at, like that doesn't make any sense.
It made the media headlines about the corresponding move. That was the first story that everybody wrote, and it dampened some of the chatter about ducking the tax, which was further dampened by the fact that everybody thought that they were going to just dump salary to do the conversion for Barlow anyway, but with the Embiid comments the week before, I think all of that was very deflating, for the people who had cautiously kind of crept back on the bandwagon and wanted to be excited about the team. I think that just took some of the air out of the tires for him. We really haven't done a lot of writing about the Sixers on the site this year. Sean's been handling most of it, but we feel our way through what people are talking about and what people are interested at the moment, and they just don't seem to be interested in the Sixers. So you do, Russ, what the people want, and what the people want is to be woken up when the
is more Matvey Michkov talk. They want to talk about Rick Tocchet and if Michkov's in shape. Yeah. Okay.
That's toxic as shit too. But I just feel like you know what that is, man. I'm talking to a guy who does a hockey show, but that to me is just like Flyers fans are just like hungry, man. They just want to be relevant. They find something that's big and they latch onto it, and they, it's like the lady in 40-Year-Old Virgin, right? I will create the most toxic environment that I can create, and then they're all ripping Kevin Kerr's, and it's like
they certainly are. There's a large. It's kind of weird. Like, I will say that, like, I don't know if anybody has. I mean, listen, there used to be some hate for like Sam Carchidi or for Tim Panaccio. There's some like disdain, maybe a little bit of frustration. Kevin Kerr has like a next level amount of hatred being shot his way. Like there's some stuff where it's like, listen, if you think that there's like an arrogance in the writing, right? Which is like, I always tell Anthony about this. Like, I think a lot of times Ant writes his stuff, and a lot of times it's just like he doesn't want to admit that he had a wrong take on something, and so he lashes out at the fans. I'm like, it does sometimes come off as condescending. You probably shouldn't do it. You should, figure something better out, a better path. If that's all it was, that'd be one thing. But in the case of Curse, man, like, there's some really nasty shit going around, like some really nasty shit being said about the guy. And I think at some point you, as a fan, have to kind of like take a step back and say, is there an actual benefit to this? What are you really hoping to get out of it? Yeah,
you got to pick and choose your spots, right? Or else it's diminishing returns on, story number 2, 3, 4, 5 about a certain guy, whether it's true or not. Yeah. I mean, you lose the effect of those stories, I think, because just people have a certain thing in their mind. They think that you're like biased or whatever, which I don't think he is, but I could see how why they would think that. But I just think so much of it stems from like the Mishkov stuff, just stems from the typical like binary way that Philadelphia sports fans look at this. It's like, you're either for Michkov or you're like against Michkov. And I'm like, well, it seems like there are some established facts in this case that he came into camp out of shape, which he has admitted and which has been said 15 times over and over. We also know that Tocchet's playing him on the third line on the opposite side that Torts was playing him on. We can also look at the fact that Mishkov's been taking himself off the ice at relatively shorter intervals than other guys. So, I mean, it's like, it's not an us versus them kind of thing. There's just multiple things going on here. I don't think people can process all of it at the same time. It's they just take it like you're either pro Mishkov or you're pro Tocchet or something. And it's like, why can't we process multiple thoughts at the same time? I don't think that stuff in your face with Russian food and not working out is probably the best way to operate. But at the same time, I also don't think he's going to do shit playing on the opposite side on the third line. So, I mean,
makes sense.
More than one thing can be true, Russ.
Well, that's the thing too, is, you want nuance, and then what ultimately wins the day a lot of times is just like a dumb, shitty take that comes out and it gets pushed across social media. And like part of that is the attention economy, right? I see people asking in the comments, like, here you go. Chris Fried asks, can Kevin please give us his opinion on sports talk radio through the ESPN or the ESP prism? I think he's asking like what you think of the way that Elliot Shore Parks goes about putting his takes out there on the radio.
Oh, I thought he was talking about Kerrs. Listen, I don't know, man. I got to be honest with you. I took WIP off the dial.
Wow.
I couldn't find anything good to replace it with. I put Q102.
Really?
And my daughters.
All right. So what's your 6-station setup? You have the 6 buttons in your car. What are the 6 stations?
Yeah. It's MMR.
Okay.
I'm close enough to the Lehigh Valley, so I have ZZO on there. 95.1.
Okay.
97.5 Fanatic. I have KYW News Radio 103.9.
Okay.
Was that 4? Yeah. I replaced the one. Yeah, I have Q102 for my daughters. Mm-hmm. And then What's the sixth one?
What is the sixth one, Kevin? What is it?
MMR, ZZO, KYW, Q102. I don't know. I can't. For some reason I can't remember. Oh, 1029 WMGK.
I was just about to say that's on ours. We have MMR, WMGK, WRTI, Philadelphia's classic and jazz station. It goes back, because up in Pottsville it was 99.1. You can never get me to quit WRTI. Love WRTI.
Jim's making me laugh. He says it is for my daughters. Yeah, Q102 because they play like K-pop Demon Hunters and that shit. They play Taylor Swift and Dua Lipa or whatever. Here's the other thing about being a girl dad. Mm-hmm. Thank you. That was brilliant. Thank you. You got to kind of vet songs for your kids.
You do. If you're a good parent, you do. You're supposed to double check some stuff,
So if you see me driving around listening to Taylor Swift by myself, I'm just vetting songs for my daughters, because she cusses some of them. I can't be listening to that.
That is true. Yeah. That is true. It's funny. The conversation about whether or not you're supposed to check stuff out ahead of time. I think it falls very much on the political spectrum about whether or not you're going to listen to the lyrics of a song ahead of time. I will say, my son came home, my oldest, and he was coming up with lyrics for a song that's like based on the melody of a song in Portuguese. It's like a Brazilian song. And I was like, I need to look at what the lyrics are. Cause he learned the Portuguese lyrics. And I was like, if it's anything like Bad Bunny, I don't think I want him learning those lyrics just in general. There's some not so great stuff in some of the Bad Bunny songs, and El Conejito Malo. And I'm like, I'm not sure what that. And the song that he was singing was actually okay.
What I was hoping for? I was hoping that Bad Bunny would have brought out Kid Rock and just threw the whole thing upside down, man. And they're holding hands up like this, like we are united.
It would have been great. Hold on, let me see if I could find the image really quickly of this, because this was one of the.
I can vamp while you're finding the image if you want.
No. Well, it's a very specific pro wrestling reference. Okay. So there was a time back in the Monday Night Wars where Rick Rude showed up on both Monday Night Raw and Monday Nitro, right? And here you go. I got it. I'm on top of this today. This is good. So this was to show that Monday Night Raw was recorded and Monday Nitro was live. If you remember, Kevin, I don't know if you're much of a WCW or WWE fan. So Monday Night Raw, he had a beard. And then he decided after this show that he was going to jump to WCW. So Ravishing Rick Rude is on Monday Night Raw with a beard. But because Nitro was live, he ends up on Nitro with the beard shaved, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that Nitro was live and Raw was taped. But he could have shown up on both. So to your Kid Rock point, it actually would have been pretty funny because there was the rumor out there that the alternate halftime show, the Turning Point USA halftime show, was pre-recorded. It would have been pretty funny if Kid Rock had come out with his hair cut, his head shaved or something, out hanging out with Bad Bunny.
Yeah, they should have come out together and done "Heal the World" by is that a Michael Jackson song?
We Are the World.
Yeah,
that would have been something too.
Oh right, yeah.
Because they already had Lady Gaga there. They already had Ricky Martin there. You never know.
They did. Yeah, that's all just whatever, man. I wrote this story for the site saying that we're not the target audience for that. When I say we, I meant middle-aged men who read Crossing Broad and watch Philly sports.
Yeah, say don't put me in a middle-aged zone.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, because you're Italian. Yeah,
please and thank you.
Yeah, but by the way, what's the threshold? How much percentage do you have to be of a certain ethnicity to be able to make fun of your own ethnicity?
That's a good question.
I found out that I'm 23% Italian. So okay. Can I do Dago jokes?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
I don't know if you meet that threshold.
Okay. But I'm 70% Irish, so I can do those.
You can absolutely rag on your fellow Irishmen. Right. I don't know. 20-ish% is probably close enough. I don't know. I think it depends on how. I think it depends on how offensive the jokes are that you're making of your own nationality. I think that's part of it too.
No, I think the Bad Bunny thing, I think the Kid Rock thing, I think the larger like culture wars and all this stuff. I remember when we were growing up 20 years ago, we were just busting each other's balls all the time, and nobody took it too seriously, and like everybody got along. People weren't sniping each other anonymously on Twitter and all this stuff. And I just like wish people would just chill out a little bit and just
lighten up a little bit.
Just lighten up a little bit. But I did want to say, like, just to wrap the radio thing, because most of these people look like they're some Crossing Broad broadcast listeners and readers and whatever. I don't even dislike sports talk radio. I just hate the way that it's programmed in this town. If you go other places in the country, it's a lot different. They don't do rage bait. They don't do hot takes. They don't have like stage callers and all that kind of stuff. They have a lot more guests. It's more focused on the hosts just talking, and it made me laugh when WIP came out the other week and they had their like decision week or whatever it was called, right?
Yeah, it's the same conversation that they have almost every day.
We're going to talk about AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts, and we're going to talk about Nick Sirianni, the same fucking shit they talk about every 5 minutes. It's just like they're trolling us at this point, But I don't dislike any of the people, on there. I just like the collective when they all come together, like what's the Transformers name? Voltron. Like when they're fine in individual parts, then when they form the WIP Voltron, I'm like, this sucks.
I thought you were like trying to go like Power Rangers with the Megazord, but that wasn't where you were going. All right.
No, and I'm not even a Transformers guy. I just remember the Wu-Tang lyric, form like Voltron, right? That was in I don't know. I forget what song that was in.
Do I look like a Wu-Tang guy to you? I don't think I do. I don't think I got a lot of Wu-Tang.
Well, I don't think you guys listen to
They're for the kids though, aren't they?
Schuylkill County, right?
There was some hip hop in Schuylkill County. Well, I get to close this out. Hold on. So MMR, WMGK, WRTI. I got 102.1. I got 101. 101.1. It's B101 because one of my neighbors was a host of B101. So you got that. And then what's the last one? Last one on the dial is I had it. 102, 101. Oh, I like Ben FM. 95.7.
Oh yeah.
I do not have sports talk radio on my dial at all. It's on none of my presets. I don't have WIP on there. I don't have the Fanatic on there. If I'm going to listen to them, I'm going to stream. I'll stream the apps. I'm not adding.
Yeah. I listen to a lot of. I'm trying to be a Spotify guy, Russ. I'm trying to expand my.
Are you?
Musical, yeah, because what happens is I just fall into the same trap of like I just end up listening to like like the same like Rat and Judas Priest and like hair metal stuff I've been listening to since the 90s. I'm like, maybe I should start figuring out what else is out there that's relatively new. Let's start with like 2003 and work our way up. It's kind of where I'm at right now.
You better watch out though. Hold on, I just lost a thought because I saw there was a Canadian politician who tweeted something out. And I actually did want to get to the Olympics here before we leave. Hold on a second. Here you go. So, what a fuck. All right, here you go. So Doug Ford, who's the Premier of Ontario. You ready for this? We're going to go out to him because he just put out a tweet a little bit ago. Because I don't know if you saw this today, Kevin. Canada almost got eliminated in the semifinal of the men's hockey tournament over at the Olympics in Milan.
Yeah.
They were down 2-0 to Rasmus Ristolainen in Finland. They came back. They scored a late goal. There was an argument about whether or not it was offside, but they scored with like 35 seconds left in the game to get the game-winning goal. So the Premier of Ontario says the entire country will be watching on Sunday morning as our men's hockey team plays for Olympic gold. To help us all celebrate Team Canada, the province will be allowing bars and restaurants across the province to sell alcohol starting at 6 a.m. Eastern. Let's all come together, support local businesses, and cheer on Team Canada.
This isn't the guy who was the mayor of Toronto, is it? The crazy.
No, I don't think it was that guy. I think that's a different guy.
That Rob Ford?
I'm pretty sure it's a different guy.
I feel like I should know that. Yeah.
But isn't that crazy? So they're going to open this up 6 a.m. on Sunday. They're going to open all the bars. Now, there is an argument to be made that the Canadians might have to drown their sorrows in their respective beverages if they run into the team that happens to reside on the other side of the border from them. We'll see if it happens or not. I don't want to throw that totally out into the universe because right now
the
U.S. is playing.
Christopher. Chris says that that Ford that I was talking about is his brother. Oh, okay.
Oh,
yeah. There you go. I knew that it looked similar. Yeah, it kind of looks similar. Like
it's a different Ford, not this Ford, not
Chris
this Ford.
Farley. If Chris Farley got into Canadian politics,
It's a different Ford, not that Ford.
I'm not
Henry Ford.
Yeah, not
Henry President, not President Gerald Ford.
Yeah,
different Ford.
Not a Norwegian fjord, Harry.
A fjord, pining for the fjords. He's just pining for the fjords.
I don't, I'm not Mr. Hockey expert, but just casually kind of keeping an eye on these Canada games. I feel like, what are we up 1-0 right now on the
Slovakia? Yeah.
I think if we just stay out of the penalty box, we're going to beat Canada.
Wow.
Power play merchants, I think is what
bold. Well, you can make an argument. There was a power play merchant level to the end of the game today, but we will not speak ill of the Canadians because we don't know if the U.S. is going to advance to play them on Sunday. We can only hope.
But they're like 6 for 14 on the power play. I don't even know if the Flyers have 6 power play goals.
Well, and it's interesting too. I put this on the thumbnail for the image. I had Amadeo throw it up there, but like Connor McDavid is having himself like an unprecedented Olympics. He's got 12 points in the Olympics, which marks the most points in a single Olympic Games in men's hockey history. 12 points already with a final to go. So he's just going to, unless whoever it is, if it's the U.S., if it's Slovakia, unless they totally figure out a way to shut down the best player in the world, he will probably add to that total on Sunday as well. Absolutely absurd tournament for him. Before we get off of Canada, though, I did have to ask you, I'm assuming that you saw this, but did you happen to see the image that was put out and the tweet that was put out by Canada, by hockey in Canada, what they had to say about silver? By any chance, did you see that?
About the silver medal?
The silver medal that the women's team picked up? Okay, here you go. I'm going to show this to you because based on how you said that, I'm assuming no. This was a tweet that the Team Canada put out about the Canadian women's hockey team who lost to the United States in a dramatic overtime game. Silver shines just as bright. That is Team Canada. Silver shines just as bright. Kevin, is there a more quintessential Canadian tweet than that?
Yeah, I don't like it, man. Were they upset? Were the fans upset about that? Were they getting ripped?
I think that just in general, it seems like a weird tweet to put out.
Yeah, that's like participation trophy kind of stuff. They were a big underdog in that game, but it's their sport. Yeah. That would be like us losing, I don't know, something we're good at and saying, well, we won silver.
Correct.
It's, the wussification of America, of Canada, as Ed Rendell would say.
All right, well, I think that was about the last thing I wanted to get to today. Is there anything else that stood out to you, Kevin, that you're very excited about out there in the Philadelphia or Olympic landscape between now and Monday?
I just want to use this time to say that I'm annoyed with the British media.
Ooh.
And all of their complaints about the World Cup thus far.
Okay.
Just a lot of whining and crying about the World Cup. And it's to the point where, even a year ago, they're like, well, it's too hot, or, the political stuff going on in the United States, we should cancel it or we should boycott it or whatever. And first of all, the tournament's happening in 3 different countries. We're not the only ones hosting it. The last World Cup was in Qatar. The one before that was in Russia. And the next one will be in Saudi. So when we're being critical of the World Cup and how ticket prices are set and all this other stuff, let's make sure we accurately say that this is a FIFA thing. It's not an American thing or a Canadian thing or a Mexican thing. And if you want to rip us for the ice stuff and for what's happening in Minnesota and all that, by all means, rip us for that. You can have an opinion on that, but people acting like just the amount of crying that's coming from the UK is just too much. I am willing to bet that 99% of people who come over here are going to have a good time and enjoy it, and there's going to be a lot of buzz for it. and we're going to have a lot of fun, and it's going to be a great tournament. We've had this thing before, and people seem to forget that we have had a World Cup in North America before. We've had one in the United States. Mexico has had 2, I think. So the Brits just need to relax, man. Enough with the they're so negative over them, and they make American media look positive. They always find something to complain about.
What did you make of the story that Foxborough was pushing back on FIFA? They were asking about what exactly the source of the $8 million that was supposedly needed for public safety around the World Cup in Foxborough actually entailed. I think they were asking FIFA for clarification on it by mid-March, but it made news a couple days ago that Foxborough, I guess, threatened to not issue the license or whatever to allow for the World Cup to happen in their city. Any thoughts there?
No, I didn't really read too much about that. My only thought was that if they don't want to have it, they will take the extra games down here,
Yeah, for sure.
Mass holes complaining as they always do. So I don't know. It just a lot of the stuff I think what bothers me is that people are just making these generic complaints and attributing them to the host countries. These are FIFA problems, Yeah. FIFA is a ridiculous organization, Mm-hmm. But don't confuse it for what, American soccer fans are like and Canadian and Mexican soccer fans. It's going to be great, man. And I think that there are some legitimate concerns to have, and I think there are some illegitimate concerns to have. Everybody's bitching about the ticket prices, but that's not an exclusive World Cup thing. I mean, you try to go see Taylor Swift or Bruce Springsteen or whatever, supply and demand economics take hold, and you want to sit in the front row, you're going to pay a lot of money. You want to sit in the top, probably still going to pay a lot of money. So yeah, go complain to FIFA about it. That wasn't us, man. We didn't do that.
Well, don't worry. I think didn't Mayor Mamdani say that he was going to make sure that he level set the ticket prices for fans in New York, even though the games are being played in New Jersey? It's fine. No big deal. Everything's fine.
But here's the thing, man. Even the European.
Can you imagine if Mayor Parker came out and was like, "We're going to cap ticket price"? How are you going to do that? Just out of curiosity.
They're going to even then they cap ticket prices at $50 so that working class and lower income people can get those tickets. Only 5,000 people are going to get those, and then the person number 5,001 complains about the lottery.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be something. We can't make it perfect. We can improve it for sure. But I think the reason we're getting a lot of complaints about it and people are pinning it on the United States and Canada and Mexico is because in the Premier League in Germany and other places like that, they do cap prices for season ticket holders, people who sit in the supporters sections and whatnot, where it's almost like fixed rent, in cities, right, where they make sure that those people can always get in. And America just goes straight capitalism. So yes, there is a cultural thing there, but this was all FIFA. It wasn't like us saying, this is how we do it over here. That was a FIFA thing,
All right. I think it's a good spot to end today.
Yeah. Those wankers.
Kinker.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Kinker, thanks for being here.
Yeah,
don't forget, if you want to apply for the writing job, I think you have a thing up on Crossing Broad for people to go
I do.
Apply over on LinkedIn, right? So
it was good to see Ford in here. It was good to see Joey and some other people. Even had Nick Aube-Kubel in the chat as well. So
that's correct. I do want to make a programming note to the people out there. And I'll drop Kevin off here for a sec. A programming note, sort of, is that many of you have been asking for a while for there to be a set time for this show. And as many of you know, if you've been around for the last year and a half, we've never had a consistent time on the show. And so I am willing to experiment with a consistent time for this show. So next week, as of right now, the plan, and I put a poll in the YouTube stream, right now it's at 80%, so I'm going to say that that is representative of enough people that I'll roll with it for a week. Next week, we are going to do the show at 10 a.m., Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m. So set that mental clock in your head. 10 a.m., we will do the Russ Joy Show Monday, Wednesday, Friday next week. We'll monitor to see what the viewership numbers are. We'll monitor to see what the podcast numbers are. And if it makes sense, we'll keep it at 10 a.m. And if it doesn't make sense, we'll come back to the afternoon. But we've gone back and forth now for a while. So 10 a.m. is what we're planning on for next week. So you can let everybody know If you have friends and family out there who are like, hey, did you listen to a Russ set today? Which oddly enough, there seems to be an ever-growing number of people who do. 10 a.m. on Monday. So you make sure you set an alarm. I'll have the stream set up. We're going to rock and roll Monday morning at 10 a.m. Hopefully, we will be able to have a conversation about U.S. men's hockey team winning a gold medal. Hopefully, I don't have to rip the U.S. for getting eliminated in the semifinal or losing to the Canadians in the final. We will see. We'll also keep you up to date on what's going on with the Phillies, with the Sixers, with the Flyers, with the Eagles, with even the Philadelphia Union, who had, by the way, a 5-0 win in their first game. Now, granted, it wasn't a league game, but 5-0 win. So the Union get a little tip of the cap to end today. 10 a.m. on Monday. I will talk to each and every one of you here on the Russ Joy Show. Until then, this has been the Russ Joy Show, and I've been Russ Joy, but you knew that already because you're smart. And it's also the name of the show. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. I'll talk to all of you Monday at 10 a.m. here on The Russ Joy Show. Bye now.